Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Zed. Today I'm going to be talking about Sundial Corporations again, Sundial Growers Inc Corporations. I'm going to go briefly through technical analysis because it still gives us an insight towards the psychology of current traders in the market for this ticker, and then I'm going to go towards news, what I expect from this one here, and any updates from my last video. If you'd like to watch my last video, and I do recommend you watch it after this one, you'll find it in the description below, and it'll explain a lot of things, including the earnings coming up and what to expect. Let's jump right into it. So coming in now towards a one-day perspective, what we get to see, I believe I made the DD somewhere around the 2nd of November or the 3rd of November. And what I said is, with Biden projected to be winning at that point, or basically anticipated to be a win there, if he actually does win, you might actually see a little bit of a run. What we've seen around the end of 3rd of November, we were at 19 cents, and this one jumped all the way to 54 cents. So you should already have profited some. But right now, why I'm making another video is that it actually went from 54 cents to 25 cents. A 50% drop in the same day. And here's where I come in to try to make sense of this and anticipate what the next movement is. So let's jump right into it. So taking a quick look into a one-day perspective, what we get to see here is an MACD that is growing really nicely. It's actually moving up. Momentum is strong. It's even with the dip, it still hasn't crashed yet on momentum. Although 80x shows in a sloppy movement, so that's a dangerous sign. Willing percent R, this is an amazing setup because it's still higher than the day before, but it's actually oversold at this point. Moving averages here, they look bearish, but you know, they take some time. So what we need to look into is the 2-hour perspective. 2-hour perspective, the MACD looks like it's dipping, so that's a little dangerous. ADX shows an unstable trend, which was a positive trend. Momentum still strong, and willing percent R overbought. Moving averages look really bullish. And what we get to see, it's actually in the trading action zone where reverses are likely. You get to see it actually reversed. And what we've seen here is this is considered still an uptrend. So high highs, high lows. Now the 54 cent, ignore it for a little. Consider the 36 cent mark to be there, because that's more of a mini pop in an uptrend, right? So it still looks bullish on a 2-hour perspective. Moving averages, get to look into the unbalanced volume. That looks incredibly unsustainable. We've been looking at an average of 75 million inflow compared to outflow. We've hit almost 1 billion. That is something scary, because that kind of gives you an insight into how many bag holders this massive pop could have created, and that creates resistance. Hopefully it pops beyond those ones and you get to see a higher high, but let's talk about it first. Moving average band is expected 20 cents on the top, 19 in the middle, and 17 on the bottom, but it's way above there. And the SNDL, stochastic fast and slow, what we get to see here is it's actually seeing a really nice, decent jump. Although it's usually at this level, when we get to see kind of this resistance on the stochastic fast and slow, it's almost giving you a little bit of a hint that, hey, be careful. We might actually break that trend any day now. And so stochastic fast and slow gives you a massive warning sign, and the way you kind of avoid this one here in terms of losses, what you want to make sure is that you set your stop losses and make sure to start taking profits. So that's something to consider. You got to check the inflow is more than outflow. Now I was gonna do Fibonacci retracements, but from 13.22 all the way down to 14 cents, the Fibonacci retracements doesn't work. So now we can take a look into supports and resistances. Also, remember, there is a bunch of bag holders in this region. I mean, I almost lost my shares. I believe I had a very small position in this one. 46-ish cent as my buy-in. 47 to almost 47 cent was my sellout. I think I sold most this day and then a bit more that day. But still, it hasn't hit that yet. Well, I mean, that's why it got rejected. A lot of bag holders from this area. Once that kind of clears up and these people kind of move on, your traders that want to make profit are there. All right, moving on. Significant supports and resistances. So the current support line sits at currently the 25 cent mark. Below there, we're looking at the 22 cent mark. Below there, we're looking at 18 cent mark, and then 16, and then your 14 cent mark or 15 cent. Significant resistances here. 28 cent mark. That's significant resistance. Then we move on to here. 32. And then 38. And then 42. And then 47. And right on here, 52. And the one that I rejected was the 54 cent, and you get to see it's exactly around here. So 54, above 54, just for the sake of argument, 63, above 63, we're looking at 77. Above 77, we're looking at 94 cents. Really bullish movement there that can happen up north. Alright, so their float here is, I usually don't check FinViz, usually I check Yahoo, but I couldn't pull up this one on Yahoo because Yahoo's being a little bit slow for me today. But look at the shares float. You got 101, so it has a massive float. If a reverse split is seen later on in the future, this massive float will actually crumble down, but still has a massive float. Perhaps that's why I didn't see a massive jump compared to something like ACB, right? But I did make another video on ACB, so I would recommend that you check it out as well. It's on my channel to compare what's the difference between this one, ACB, and Hexo. All these ones are made this weekend on my channel. Now, let's take a look into institutional buyers, and we do remember that on the 6th, BlackRock pulled out. Well, actually, when you think about it, BlackRock pulled out on the right exact time, perhaps maybe at the 50 cent mark. Maybe they dumped all their shares, and that's why it kind of seen a resistance. But they got out because I guess they perhaps bought it at 47 or 48 cents, and they saw it at 52 and they sell it. And it might be a good position that they're in. Coming in now towards their earnings, remember, November 11th. It's really close. If you watched my previous video, I talked about what to anticipate onto the earnings, what's yet to come, previous earnings insight, stuff like that. So that is something solid to look at. Another thing to look at is cannabis consumption in Canada, but some of them are, you don't have exact research right now that is updated for that. I did try to find, it doesn't adjust to, let's say, the illegal black market for cannabis consumptions, but rather more off strict observation based on trends. So I'm going to avoid that one there. So November 11th is your earnings, and remember they do have a massive massive shelf still that they have from before, and they still have the risk of a reverse split, so that's some things to consider, mentioned in my last video. Other than that, we're going to talk about the short term. Of course, why is the market rallying? Montana, Arizona, New Jersey, and South Dakota approved marijuana ballot measures that CNN projects. And then the next thing is Biden team has basically ran on, okay, we're going to legalize marijuana as well, so that's why it's actually running as well. Now comes in towards Ed, it's amazing and all, but why did this one see a massive hit from 54 cents while ACB still jumped up, right? Okay. One thing I've noticed about SNDL that was massive on Friday. The amount of pumpers getting on it and amount of discords that was mentioned in, when you pump a stock, people, investors or traders that are against pumping, which I am one of them, I usually start considering selling. So you're kind of scaring more of the bigger whales in that sense, and you're throwing out your shares. And sometimes with pump and dump, okay, if a stock is actually worth that jump, it will continue to jump alone. As soon as pumpers come in, they will get a spike, and then a massive dump, and a raid on stop limits, and it decreases the price point. That's the bad things about pumping and dumping, is that you actually damage the price action for a medium term. But in the short term, you get more profit for an hour or two, but then guess what? A dump follows. So that's something to consider. Next thing is, I consider perhaps a little bit of a jump coming in towards Monday. Wait, what you can actually get face off is buy the rumor, sell the news. Here's why. Biden will not take office until January 21st. That's considered day one. He's inaugurated on January 20th. I'm pretty sure he's not going to legalize marijuana on the first day. I think it's going to take some time. I think that he has some things to measure first. For instance, he said about the parents' agreement, I believe, the ban on travel ban. What else was it? Dreamers. That's some things Biden has mentioned. He didn't mention something on the first day on cannabis. Could be maybe the first month, but that takes a few months from now, because we're right now in November. Trump is in office until January 20th. So we got 2-3 months there, and then you got Biden perhaps going to take some time to legalize it. It's not going to be the top issue he has. He has COVID to handle by then. I'm pretty sure it'll still be around. And then comes cannabis. So it's going to take some time. And so that's why I'm talking about in the longer term. Yes, we're going to probably see an increase on there. But in the shorter term, before that longer term comes in, this one, you got its earning coming up. So you need to look into the earnings. Sure, it might see a jump coming in Monday if the industry of the cannabis increases, and I expect it to jump. So I expect some green coming in. So bullish on a very short term, but reverse split. Perhaps their cash. You need to look into their earnings coming up. So that's something to consider. And then the third thing is buy the rumor, sell the news. That's always a risk. So you got to put your stop limits really tight. And then the fourth thing is that Biden doesn't take office until the end of January. So that's all things you need to consider. But overall, I think it's going to see a nice jump if volume follows, at least in the industry overall. And I do expect it to see a bit more green. What do you think about the sticker? Make sure to mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like. Have a wonderful day.